Hello and welcome back to Mark's House and Garden UK, where I am visiting Bodnant Gardens in Wales, and I've done a little video for you, but don't just take my word for it. Do come and visit Bodnant Gardens because you won't be disappointed. It's absolutely beautiful. Enjoy this guided tour. So Bodnant is in Conwy, or Conway as I used to know it. And whilst you're here, why not visit the castle, or the smallest house in the world? This is the hotel I stayed at, and I'll put the link in the description box below this video. It was excellent, and it's only about 10 minutes drive from Bodnant. Beautiful little hotel. Right, let's get back to the garden. Plenty of parking, but be aware most of the parking is up a hill. So if you're not able-bodied, you might need to take advantage of the accessible parking at the bottom of the hill. There is a drop-off point near the entrance as well. It's on a bus route, so you can come on a bus if you wish. You'll have to look up the bus times. So here we are, Bodnant Gardens. The parking is on one side of the main road where there is a cafe, and then the gardens are on the other side of the road. So you have to go under an underpass. Now this is a new thing since I last visited about 20 years ago, and it's really convenient. So here's the main entrance to the gardens, and as usual, you enter through the admittance point where you can join the National Trust if you wish. I am a member, so I can visit any of their gardens for free. There's usually a map near the entrance, and in this garden you can see they've planned out two routes, a red route around the gardens and a blue route around the kind of the wooded area where there is a ravine and some lakes and rivers. I'm going to cover both areas in this video. One of the first things you'll see when you enter the garden is this beautiful parterre and little water feature. And look at the colour on those hyacinths, aren't they beautiful? So we have some formality at the entrance. And here's the big house. Now the house is not open to the public, but you can see it from most points in the garden. Beautifully tended borders all the way around this garden. And we are about to go into the laburnum arch, which is absolutely incredible. Now the structure is interesting in its own right, even in the springtime. But can you imagine what this would look like when it's in full bloom in a couple of months? I visited in March. If you want to see this, I would suggest later on in the year. There it is. Look at that wonderful structure. Even though it's March, there's plenty to do and see in this garden. Lots of rhododendrons and azaleas, plenty of interesting tree specimens with very unusual barks on them, as you can see here. All labelled as well, so if you want to go home and buy one, you can do. Just make a note of the label. Another little parterre with a fountain here. What I found interesting about this one is the fact the hedges are yew. And I shall be making a little yew parterre when I get home. Right, here we have a sign saying you can go one direction for the blue route, and it gives you the distance, and the other direction for the red route. Unusual plants everywhere. If you're mindful and you take your time, you can see some incredible specimens of plants and flowers. And we're in the springtime, so the hellebores, as you can see, are in full flow at the moment. A yellow bamboo. And look at this orange coloured tree here. Very unusual. I have to say that the paths, in the main, are accessible. Even though we are going into a hilly area, it's divided into horizontal level paths, which do connect with vertical paths. But if you stick to the level ones, you'll be all right. My mum is 79 and she's recently had a mild stroke, and I would be confident that she could get all the way around this garden. She would just have to stick to the more level paths. Plenty of little vantage points with benches to sit down and look and enjoy the scenery and have those mindful moments. The paths are very well maintained with compacted slate and some lovely bridges over the stream. Interesting, I think this stream was used to power a mill, because we will come back to the mill in a moment. Some very large-leaved plants in this woodland area. some kind of rhododendron, I think, that one. And as you can see, as we wander around, the light, this spring light is starting to penetrate the under canopy, and everything is springing back to life. Is that a skimmer there with red berries? I don't know, you tell me. These are definitely gunnera, and they are in the very early stages of opening up. A hollowed out, rotten tree there. And look at the size of this tree. Massive, huge tree, towering up into the air. A collection of little trees with green bark here. And again, labelled just in case you want to find out what it is. Down there you can see a casualty of recent storms. A massive tree has sadly reached the end of its life. Probably fell across the path and had to be cut down. You can see a dog there. These are dog-friendly gardens, as long as your dog is kept on a lead. And what interested me about that bark there was these deep cuts and crevices in its bark. Imagine the wildlife that can hide away in there. I mentioned a mill earlier, and you're going to see that there are some sluice gates and small dams on the river, and presumably that was to manage the water flow through the mill. And here we are. Look at this beautiful, tranquil scenes by this lake. And there's a little weir, and as you can see there, just to the left of the bridge, some sluice gates, so that they can manage the water flow down here. They have something similar to this where I live in Nantwich. There's a mill island, and I suspect that this is of a similar nature. We are nearly at the far end of the walk here. We go past this mill pond, and we go up a slight hill, and we will find a picnic area. Again, the paths are well maintained and easily manageable. Look at this. I think this is a hazel maze. It's where they've just stuck branches into the ground, and as you can see, they've woven them together and they're starting to grow. A lovely tactile carved acorn on the end of a piece of wood. We have more gunneras here and a picnic area. What's nice about the far end is once you get there, there's a picnic area so you can have a rest, and also I can happily report that there are some public conveniences. Little bug hotel there, the insects in the winter time. And we'll now look back, and we'll be making our way back now past all these lakes and streams towards the more formal area of Bodnant. It kind of serves two markets, if you like. You can have your woodland walks with your under canopy and these beautiful flowers, but you can also have a wander around some really formal type gardens. I was interested in this collection of tree ferns, which had all been protected for the winter, and one of them had chicken wire over its crown, and I wonder if that was to protect it from squirrels. Look at this little stepping stone bridge here, which I enjoyed going across. You don't have to go across that. There are other ways back to where you came from, but I just enjoyed. Look at that beautiful weir with a bridge over it and the sound of running water everywhere. What a lovely garden. Now look at this here. I believe this is skunk cabbage, which I think is a banned plant now because it's so invasive, and you can see it's invasive by how many you can see just there. Little bit of history, and happily you will see any moment that there is a little cafe in the woods where you can buy drinks and snacks and pasties. It's dog friendly, but you will be served in paper cups, and that was the mill house there that this stream powered. We're going to make our way up a small hill past some camellias and azaleas, and there's the mill down at the bottom of the ravine. There are some gradual inclines to climb up if you're less able-bodied, and we will see now what I think is a spectacular water feature. Look at this beautiful long pond, and we're going to go to the other end and look back. Over there in the distance you'll see some terraces, and we'll be going up there in a moment too. But look at that. Isn't that wonderful? I do love a long, narrow water feature with a focal point at each end of it. At one end there's a little building, as you can see here, and at the other end there's kind of a theatre of yew hedges. Beautiful, absolutely stunning. And bear in mind, this is March, probably the least enjoyable part of the year, and yet it's still well worth a visit. Imagine what these rose beds are going to be like when they come into bloom. Now, they made the most of the hillside here with some terraces and lots of rose arbours and climbing roses, again looking down over that beautiful, long, narrow pond. We're nearly at the end of our tour, but just when you think it's all over and you're about to get finished, you stumble across through this gap in the hedge another water feature. Look at this, absolutely stunning. And then that little rill goes under the path and out to a formal lake. And there are the Welsh hills in the distance. The money that must have been invested in this when it was built by its owners way back in the day, they must have been incredibly wealthy. And now it's available for us all to enjoy, because it's part of the National Trust, who here are doing some fundraising. They're clearly going to replace the statue here. There's the original, decayed and worn out, and here is a model. The wisteria, incredible old wisteria climbing up these steps. Imagine what that will look like when it's in bloom, and the fragrance too. Wonderfully tended formal rose beds, and again an elevated view looking down on the lake. I always enjoy a cup of tea after a garden tour, and the National Trust don't let you down. There's usually a cafe on site where you can have a nice cup of tea or a coffee and a cake. Very nice and needed. And then usually, as usual, there's a plant sale with some very interesting and unusual plants. And this is where I head first for the clearance bargains. And you can even take home some free plant trays. Thank you for visiting Bodnant Garden, and I'll see you soon for some more gardening adventures. Bye for now.